And I want to talk about some of those authorities because President Trump, in that press conference you mentioned, just happened a few moments ago. He's not happy with this ruling, but he said that there's powerful alternatives. And I want to discuss what they are and what this really means for the state of tariffs as we know them right now. Because the tariffs and their implementation really have been riddled with uncertainty from the start. And I want to talk about where they are and what they look like right now. Because President Trump, he said that Section 232 and Section 301 tariffs remain in place and, quote, in full force and effect. He also announced he's imposing that 10% global tariff over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And as you said, this is that tariff under Section 122. It's a temporary tariff, and that provision gives the president the authority to impose a tariff of up to 15% for only 150 days. So can you add any clarity here to what the tariff situation looks like?
Sure. So we have existing tariffs on China that are grounded in Section 301 of the Trade Act, and those have been in place for quite some time. There are a number of other Section 301 investigations that are pending, including on shipbuilding and on semiconductors. And it was alluded to in the press conference that there's likely others that will be announced in the coming days. So Section 301 is pretty broad authority and allows for pretty significant tariffs when it comes to any act by a foreign country that burdens or restricts U.S. commerce. So pretty broad authority there, and I think that you could replace a lot of the IEEPA tariffs that were struck down today using that authority alone. Other authority that's in effect now is Section 232 authority, and that's grounded in national security concerns. So we have a number of Section 232 duties in place on steel, aluminum, autos, and many other sectors. And I think about around a dozen 232 investigations that are pending and could be invoked again in order to replace the IEEPA tariffs that were struck down. Now, Section 122 is a little known provision of trade law that has not been invoked in any recent time. And as you mentioned, it has some restrictions on it. It can only be in place for up to 150 days, and it's capped at 15%. At 150 days, it can only be renewed by an act of Congress. So that expiration date is in July, a couple of months before the midterms. I think that there's a big question there as to whether Congress would vote in favor of moving those forward. But how the president and Ambassador Greer designed the Section 122 tariffs, hopefully we'll find out more on that today, if not over the weekend. But it's possible that not every country will face that 10% additional tariff under Section 122, as that's really grounded in whether there's a balance of payments emergency. What is the significance of our trade deficit with that partner? So we could see some partners with the higher end of that and others at the lower end of that. So I think that there's a lot of question marks that are still out there that we'll find out soon, but there's definitely a lot of authorities that can step in the wake of this ruling.